Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Ramblings from Two Meddling Kids. I'm Edward Hunt, joined by my co-adventurer,
Mike Cunningham.
and we are the Meddling Kids. And today we'll be reviewing Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. For those of you joining us for the first time, we like to review movies, but don't worry, we're not going to spoil anything in the first 5-10 minutes. We're going to give you a spoiler-free review, give you our overarching thoughts on it, and then you can decide whether or not you want to go see it. And if you do, great. Pause, go see it. Just make sure you come back, and you'll hear our play-by-play. If you're thinking, I'll just listen, we'd love to keep you here the whole time. All right, Mike, ready to get started?
I am.
Spoiler for review. What do you got?
Okay, so Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, I give it a 3.
Okay.
I thought it was really fun. It was definitely kind of unexpected. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, it looked good. It had, big stars, a few big stars attached to it. But I don't know much about Dungeons and Dragons. Never really played outside of watching Stranger Things, and the 2 episodes of Community.
Okay.
So I don't really know. Truly know. I've watched people play it or it being dramatized on in Hollywood, but never actually played it. So I'm not really familiar. But I think even as somebody that was going in kind of blind, it was able to keep me entertained. Mm-hmm. It was funny. The action was good. I think the creature creation was good, which is something I didn't think about until we got further into the movie. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure there's different, obviously dragons. Didn't see too many dungeons, which was a letdown. I'm a big dungeon guy.
There are dungeons every now and then.
Huge dungeon guy. Don't like to brag, but
you keep your bedroom stuff out of here. So this is a family show.
But it was just even a lot of the creature design was really cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I had a lot of fun. Like I was saying earlier, I think what threw me off a bit was some of the lore specific stuff. So learning the different classes or learning the different settings and locations was kind of, I wasn't really aware. So I was just like, okay, cool. That's what we're doing. I kind of took it as not even just as a fantasy, a D&D game type of thing, but just if I was watching a fantasy film, going in blind, how would I react? Mm-hmm. So that was cool. But yeah, I think all in all, just solid movie, fun. Yeah. I don't know if I'd watch it again. I don't know, watch it again, but it was definitely good for a viewing and kept keeping you entertained. So yeah,
cool. So I recognize I might be slightly biased, but I'm giving it a 4. I loved it. I thought it was great. Background. I haven't really played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I've actually only played for the first time a couple years ago. But I grew up playing the Baldur's Gate games, reading some of the Drizzt Do'Urden books, or Drizzt, if you want to call it that way, I suppose. Whatever.
Obviously we do.
So I know the Forgotten Realms or the Realms pretty well, and I know a lot of this. So I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun, even without it. I thought it was really funny. It had great action sequences. It had great set design, great effects, some really cool sequences. And then, but I will say, so my bias, when they say Mordekainen, I'm like, I know that guy. I know that guy.
So, I think that's what I said. I was looking to the audience. Obviously, we didn't sit near one another, but I was looking to the audience to tell me, oh, this is important, or
But something I loved about that, and I'm obviously Mad Max Fury Road. One of someone did earlier is for Mad Max. It was just yep, that's the bullet farm. That's the Mother's Milk Station. The random they just casually throw out the names. Yeah. And they did that with this. I was like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter. It's okay, they're using the proper names of these places, but they're just throwing them out casually in conversation to not try to be this is Baldur's Gate, the land of heroes. Blah blah blah. It's nope, fuck it, that's Baldur's Gate. Yeah, people come from Baldur's Gate. They got lots of money. Keep it moving. Oh, that's the so and so creature. Yep, keep it moving. They didn't have to take all this time to explain.
It was we did it. We did a thing.
We did a thing.
Okay.
And so I think that was a really good way that as a fan of the world and knowing a lot of this, I'm yes. But for people who don't know a lot of it, they didn't have to exposition dump every single time. It's this is a thing that happens. Accept it and then keep it moving because we're going to make a joke. And my wife and I saw it. We were sitting next to each other. We were cracking up the entire time, and she also has no idea of this world. But so again, I think 4 out of 5. I really liked it. Would I see it again? Maybe. The original Dungeons and Dragons movies from forever ago were shit. Those were very
2000
bad.
with Marlon Wayans.
Yeah, those were bad movies. But this one, I might see it again. And if there's a sequel, I'll see it too. So that is our spoiler-free review. Mike with a 3, me with a 4. I'd say, yeah, go see it. Honestly, go see it in theaters. They had a really fun part, too, where the cast, at least in theaters, they called us the heroes because we saw movies how they were meant to be in theaters.
And I was just like, all right, play a little movie.
I appreciate it. I was like, you know what? I am a hero.
Don't patronize me, Chris Pine, with those pretty eyes. We get it.
And Renee Jean Page. I'm like, yeah. As I sit here, I'm like, yes, it is me. That's nice.
I knew it would get somebody like you. He was like, you know what? I am a hero.
Thank you. So yeah, go check it out. But yeah, so what next? I always like to do a little bit of background before we get in. So Mike, tell us a little bit about the movie, please.
Okay, so Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves came out March 31st, 2023.
That's today. How did we see it before today?
Runtime, 2 hours and 14 minutes. I definitely felt it. Even though the movie the pacing was fine, I think, but it was a little bit like you were sitting with a very, intricate dungeon master.
Yeah.
So the budget was $150 million. Box office, we won't know, until the end of the weekend. Rotten Tomatoes, it was interesting for this one. So, like, before the movie opened, they had an audience score, which usually never happens. They usually wait for the actual release.
Yeah.
But it was like at a 91 and a 94 for critics and audience. So we'll see. I think this might be one of those. It was just like people love Dungeons and Dragons so much that, and especially with how it's been represented in Hollywood for the past 20 years. Yeah. This being the best representation of it. So it's like, it might be where, we'll see how it actually fares out.
And it's a simple movie. It's like, there's some good messages with it, but it's very, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. But it's a good through line going all the way through, and it keeps moving, so you don't really get bored.
That's what I was saying. The pacing was like fairly fine. The genre is action, adventure, fantasy,
comedy,
and comedy.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
Directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, who previously worked on Vacation, that reboot with Ed Helms. Yeah, and then Game Night. I don't know if you saw that one. It was
the murder thing.
Jason Bateman, and Regina George. Okay. She has a real name. I just refuse. Right. And then it was interesting because I was looking at, when I was doing the research, John Francis Daley is an actor. So he was like from Freaks and Geeks.
Yes.
Waiting. And I know he was on Bones for a bit. Okay. And then Jonathan Goldstein wrote on Spider-Man Homecoming and Horrible Bosses.
And that 100% explains why I was like, I know that name. I just don't remember why. Freaks and Geeks. And yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so starring Chris Pine is Edgin. Yeah, Edgin. Yeah. Once again, these names. Yeah. That's what, like I said, a lot of with the lore and stuff like that, they're just naming places, and I'm just like, well, those are places I can't even pronounce. Yeah. So I'm not gonna give it a try at all.
Underdark's pretty hard to pronounce, huh? I get it.
Super hard. It's like 2 syllables.
3. Underdark.
Michelle Rodriguez as Holga. We had Regé Jean Page as Zenk.
Zenk? Yeah, we'll do Zenk. Yeah.
Zenk. What was the Theoden or something like that? What was it called?
The Wizards of Thayer?
Thayer.
Yeah, Thayer. So he was, from Thayer, which is another place. Yeah.
Justice Smith as Simon. Sophia Lillis. Excuse me, as Doric. You had Hugh Grant as Forge. It's nice to see him. He was also in the Knives Out movie. Yes, I don't know if he's making a resurgence or maybe he was always there. I just wasn't paying attention to what he's been doing lately. But it's good to see him. He still has that Hugh Grant charm. Daisy Head as the Red Wizard of Sophina.
Yeah, Sophina. Yeah, she was creepy. Yeah, and she did very well. She was creepy the whole fucking time.
And then the tagline is, "Who needs heroes when you have thieves?"
Yeah, makes sense. You know, it's funny. Like all the D&D movies, they all the thieves are always like the main people every single time. Yeah, but
is it once again? Is it okay? So you got the paladin and the bard, the barbarian. Sorcerer or wizard or
yes, I mean so a sorcerer, mage, wizard.
Mage. That's what that was a dork word I was looking for.
Yeah, so it depends. So really, a sorcerer is born of magic.
You know what? We do not have time.
They have magic in their bloodline. Yeah. I will say,
are you really going to get in some Muggle-born bullshit?
Absolutely. So sorcerers are born.
Don't you dare mudblood me on this.
Look, your words, not mine. It's just.
But yeah, so that's all the background that I have.
Perfect. Oh, and I will say, getting into it, if you've never played a little game called Baldur's Gate for the computer or anything, it definitely made me want to do a playthrough as a bard, which I've never done before because Chris Pine was a bard. But yeah, all right. So Dungeons and Dragons, all right. It starts with a bunch of kids sitting around a table. They're rolling dice. They're role playing a little bit, right? That's how D&D works.
That would have been interesting. It was just like it zoomed out. It was just like, what do you mean? None of this? Come on!
That would have been kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. But it would have had to be a little dorky, a little like cheesier if that was gonna be the case. Yeah, too meta.
I feel like American Dad did that, where it was just like they did it like obviously you could tell it was the characters from the show doing the Dungeons and Dragons thing, but they kind of jumped out often.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we open with we are a prisoner is being or a person, is being transported to a prison. He's obviously a prisoner.
We don't like labels like prison.
We don't. That's what it was. I was trying to be super non-binary.
Fuck that guy. He wasn't. He was a prisoner.
But yeah, so it was interesting because it was like you would assume that he's going to be important in the story. He is not, but he is just your introduction to the two main characters. I'm just going to call him Ed.
Ed. That's what a lot of people call him Ed. Yeah, that works.
And Hoga.
I'm Ed.
So they have been in prison for 2 years, and this was so like the new prisoner comes in. He's their bunkmate, and you get the what is it? The duality of their two,
which was great.
Their two personalities. So you have Ed there. He's knitting something, and he's like introducing the the new prisoner to the room or whatever. And Hoga's just sitting there eating her potato.
Yeah.
And he goes, like, the new prisoner goes over to Hoga and says, I've never seen a woman in a prison. We're going to have a lot of fun. And Ed's trying to warn him. He was like, I wouldn't do that.
Don't talk to her when she's in potatoes, man. That's not cool. He's like, Chris Pine's just being a funny dude. And just like, I wouldn't do it.
And Hoga, he attempts to, like, caress her face. So she politely puts down her potato because obviously we're not going to, ruin dinner.
You don't want to get blood on a potato.
And she kicks him directly in the knees, which I'm tired of seeing. I feel like Harley Quinn did it in the Birds of Prey movie, and I'm tired of seeing.
They just like full on just crack.
And also, as someone who broke their kneecap a few years ago, like it's just the knee violence is unnecessary. Hollywood. But yeah, so she kicks him in the knees, slams his head on the bench, and then goes back to her
potato.
And then Chris Pine is like, I think I'm going to make these into mittens.
Because Chris is just hanging out, unfazed by this boss, just knitting in the corner. Great introduction to these characters. You know exactly what they're like immediately.
And so you jump to their parole hearing. They've been in prison, so this is where you get the background. They've been in prison for 2 years. They up for parole. And obviously Chris Pine being the talker, if you will. He's talking to the parole board, but he's waiting for a specific parole board member.
Jonathan. He's like, Jonathan will understand my story. We need Jonathan
so
here.
So he first notices that Jonathan is, and he was like, we could wait, or we could reschedule. But they kind of force him to tell him, give his plea. Yeah. So he says, in order to give his plea, he needs to give his backstory. So this is where you get. I thought it was an interesting way to give the backstory. Yeah. I was glad it wasn't the entire story. Yeah, I thought he was going to be narrating the entire movie that way.
It was very succinct. Yeah. It was, this is why I'm here. This is what happened.
So you find out that he, when he was younger, he became a harper. Which don't know what that is.
A roving group of heroes. They go across the land and they fight evil. The Harpers come together. They're a mystical organization. I think at the helm is Elminster. All right, Geraint was a Harper at some point. There's Khalid and Jaheira.
Family tree. Ed becomes a Harper. He has a wife and a young daughter. And there was danger, but basically the Harper's oath was to rid the world of evil. So he was like kind of a spy. And he was also bringing in these red wizards.
He did whatever he had to.
Yeah, who are terrorizing the land.
The Red Wizards of Thair, an evil group of people.
And so one day you see that he's returning home, and the Red Wizards are kind of retreating from his house. They've set it on fire and stabbed his wife. Yep. Out of revenge, because he says, as a Harper, you make enemies.
Yeah, and that's just not nice. Stabbing people's wives. Not okay, everybody. I just want to let you know.
Right. Thank you. PSA for that.
The more you know.
So his young daughter survives, but he's kind of, overwhelmed by being, losing his wife, being a single father. And so he's like drinking in the bar and stuff like that. And that's where he meets Hoga, who is a barbarian who was banished from her tribe.
For falling in love with someone not in the tribe.
Yes.
What a great review.
Yeah. And so she kind of, is his anchor after his wife leaves, and it was like they become kind of a misfit family.
Yeah, and even he's like, "This is my sister. Like we're brothers and sisters." And then you see Holga helps raise Kira. That's their daughter.
Yes.
So they're like raising Kira together, but platonically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they, in order to, because they're both broke, so in order to, make a life for Kira, they start a band of thieves. And this is where we meet both Simon, who is a amateur sorcerer, we'll give it, and Forge, who is a con man.
Yeah. So the reason why Simon's a sorcerer instead of a wizard or a mage is because he has magic in his bloodline that traces far back, which sorcerers have. All right, mages or wizards, anybody can be that. It takes a lot of studying. Just a slight difference, but hey.
So sorry you had to hear that.
Hey kids, knowledge is cool.
Stop trying to make D&D a thing. Okay? It'll never happen. I don't see D&D going for many years. Being honest with you.
It's just a phase. It'll pass. It's been around for 60 years now. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And so this band of thieves, they work together, just to collect money to make a life for themselves, and they get. I guess Forge gets recruited by the wizard. Well, she's another sorceress.
Yeah, Sophina,
the
blue wizard,
to I guess break into this stronghold to get and there's like a bunch of riches there, and normally they bring Kira along to assist, but he's like, this is too dangerous. And so he...
even though Kira has a pendant that lets her turn invisible.
Yes.
So they gave her... and that she helped out with all the thieving. She turned invisible and did
also, just quick, I forgot to say, so after his wife dies, he renounces the Harpers.
Yes, yeah, he's like, I'm no longer a Harper. And he was upset as going along with being a Harper because being a Harper doesn't pay.
Yes.
Yeah, so
that's why he became, after he became a thief.
Yeah, because he needs money.
So this last job, they don't bring Kira along because it's too dangerous, but he promises her he'll be right back. This is the last job. Yeah. And she says, we have everything we need. Like, but Ed is drawn to this last job because of the treasure that's in the vault.
The Tablet of Resurrection.
Yes.
You capable
Super
of being
curious
used
about what
time.
it does.
Yeah, it resurrects things. It's a tablet that resurrects things.
It looked like a smooth, maybe an iPhone of resurrection. But yeah, so that's his motivation to going to do this job because he didn't want to work with Sophina.
Yes, yeah. Or also he didn't want to rob from the Harpers because even though they were thieves, they had standards.
Yes.
They tried not to kill.
Yeah, tried not to kill. Yeah,
and robbing from the Harpers was like a low blow. He's like, we're not doing that. But then Forge convinces them to do it because hey, there's a Tablet of Resurrection in here. Then you can bring back your dead wife.
Yes. So, but he doesn't tell Kira this because he doesn't want to get her hopes up. And so they go on the job. Everything's looking fine until he goes to steal the Tablet of Resurrection, and you see that Sophina is focused on this horn. It seems like this glowing red horn. Yeah. Obviously, super evil.
It doesn't look ominous at all. It's just normal horn. Yeah, that's what horns look like for sure. Yeah.
And so she is focused on that. Ed finds the Tablet of Resurrection, and Indiana Jones style, it's on this little pew or whatever. And he, when he goes to grab it, there's this thin thread on it that snaps, alerting the guards. So initially 4 guards come in and Sophina murders them immediately. Yeah. And
she is very powerful.
Yeah, she's a very powerful sorceress. And
she might be a wizard.
Not today. And so Ed says, "What are you doing? We don't kill." Yeah. And I really wanted her to say, "Well, joke."
That would be funny. But Sophina's the entire time you see her, and she's just black eyeliner, dead-eyed, stare straight ahead, doesn't say anything. You could be like, that chick's evil.
Yeah.
Anyone.
I don't want to judge people.
I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but I am judging that book.
And so Sophina, in order for them to escape, she's does this. Time stop spell.
It's like a level 7 spell, man. That's tough. That's hard.
And so, immediately, first, what's his name? Simon tries to stop it, but once again, weak sorcerer. But pretty much useless. Yeah. Except for party tricks and magic tricks. But so he can't stop the time stop, and we see that Holga gets trapped in it. And so you see Ed really do I try to help her or do I get away? And because of the fact that one, they are thieves, but as also his sister.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But he decides that I truly can't help her, so he runs away, but falls and his leg gets trapped in a time what is it?
Time stop.
Time stop. Why can't I think of that? His leg is stopped it because it's basically like creeping into the rest of the room, and so his legs get caught. So he throws the tablet to Forge and tells him to take care of Kira.
Yep.
And so, Forge says, obviously I will. And so both Helga and Ed get trapped in a time stop. Forge, Simon, and Sophina escape. And that's how that's how Ed and Helga ended up in prison.
Yep.
But he ends this with saying, it was just like, yeah, you can, let us out now, you can let us in 2 years, but I've learned so much. But his biggest mistake is robbing his daughter of a father. Yep. And he realized that's the only thing, his only motivation is getting out. And
this entire time he stopped, like, we can wait for Jonathan.
Yeah,
and it's fine. Don't worry,
he's
we'll wait
frustrating
for
the
Jonathan.
boy. Yeah. And so you see that they stamp his they do stamp his papers or whatever.
You just don't know what the decision is.
You don't know what the decision is. I guess you do because we see it, but whatever. Yeah. And so they stamp his paper, and before they announce, like he literally tells them before you announce the verdict. Jonathan finally walks in. He's like, "Sorry, I'm late because it was because of the weather." Yeah. And instead of waiting for with their decision, they jump on Jonathan because he is like a raven or something.
I can't remember.
But he's like a humanoid raven.
Yeah, he's a bird folk.
So he has wings. Yeah. So they grab him and push him out of the window, and obviously him being a bird and out of survival, he starts flying with them on him. So that is how they escape from prison.
But they're flying out the window, and they're like, "But we approved your pardon." And I was like, "Yeah."
And that's what I knew it because it was green.
Yeah, green.
So later on, you see like a red one. So it's like
green is good. But
yeah. But so that was funny. So like they escape from prison. Jonathan is still alive, so he's all good.
They like land, and Jonathan's like twitching on the ground, but Hogan's like, "He's still breathing. We're good," and they just run away.
So they immediately go back to their home, the village where they were raised. They were living with Kira, and to see that the house hasn't been lived in a while. Yeah, but he goes to this like secret cabinet that his wife had used to store Kira when the Red Wizards had attacked. And there's is it a lute?
Yeah, his lute. Okay, a lyre. I don't know, the fancy little bard instrument. It's called a lute. Yeah.
And so he grabs his lute and they go to a bar trying to figure out, all right, so where would have Forge taken Kira? And they're making out a plan, and then you see that on the flyer is Forge's face because he has somehow become the Lord of Neverwinter. Yep. Which, once again, what is up with these names? I'll get over it.
Well, Neverwinter is a city where there's never winter, so it's prosperous all the time.
Oh, wow. So those mittens were useless.
Those mittens were useless there. Yes. I don't actually remember Neverwinter, but I'm assuming that's why it's called Neverwinter, because it's always nice and sunny. So
because some 4-year-old king.
Yep, exactly. Neverwinter. This is a magical land, and there's never winter. What do we call it?
Oh God,
never.
I'm gonna sleep on it. Yeah. But so they go to the city of Neverwinter. They meet up with Forge and Kira at first. Actually, first they meet up with Kira. Yeah. So they're waiting for to meet up with Forge, and they meet Kira, and you see that she immediately runs to Helga because that is her mother figure.
Basically, yeah.
And so obviously there's more love for Helga than Ed. She hugs Ed, but there's this she's
very cold,
very cold to him because she feels that he left. He didn't need to go on that job.
Yeah,
or whatever. Sure. They had everything they needed, and then also you find out when she takes them to Forge that he's been. First of all, she calls him Uncle Forge. Yep. Because he's basically become her guardian. Yeah. And I think he didn't tell her why Ed had gone on the job.
Yeah, he never told her what the tablet was, why the purpose of this was.
So she just thinks that her dad, being basically a common thief, couldn't help but go steal things.
Yeah. Well, and he lied. He told her that it was a tablet of riches, not a tablet of resurrection.
I think I missed that. I don't remember him telling her at all.
Yeah. So he says that he's like, "Oh, your father went for a tablet."
Oh no.
Of riches.
So did Ed tell her that, or Forge did?
Forge told Kira.
Right.
Yeah. Forge told. So
the way you just said, I thought maybe Ed had told her.
Ed tried to tell her it was a tablet of resurrection, but Forge was like, "Nope, it's a tablet of riches. All your father." And this is what he's told Kira the past 2 years. He's only cared about getting money. Yeah.
Okay. So Kira kind of runs off because it's the fact that her dad won't admit his wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Like he is the reason why all of this happened.
For sure. Yeah.
And so she runs off, and so Forge and so Ed's talking to Forge. He's like, "So give me the tablet so we can get out of here."
Yeah.
And Forge says, "I don't think I'll be doing that." And this is, you see that turn.
Yeah.
And then as he's saying that, Sofina walks in because he's still working with her.
Yeah. And she's still creepy as hell.
Still creepy as shit. Yeah. Nicer robe though.
Yeah, nice robe. Yeah, fancy robe now, but yeah, still creepy. Yeah.
And then so you see that Ford says that he knows that they've been lying this whole time, that they didn't get out of prison, they escaped.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's when Kira runs out, because that was like another proof of like Ford's being like, see, they've been lying to you. Here's the flyer that says.
So you see, there's their wanted poster, and so Ford says to turn them in and collect the bounty.
Yeah.
And so.
This is after Kira's already left. So Kira's already left, so she doesn't know that Forge is still like, I'm still going to send your dad back to prison because I'm not nice.
Yeah. And so the guards take them off to be executed.
Yeah, because Sofina's like, he's like, turn them in, collect the bounty. Sofina's like, nah, we killing these dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a true villain.
Yeah,
Smart.
She's a villain. Yeah, for sure.
And so the guards go to take them off to execute them, and you see the first thing Ed says is like, "You got this." He's like, "Well, I know you don't."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so Hoga starts chatting up the executioner because he has this really nice axe, which once again I assumed was a thing, maybe, especially, and then later on maybe because of how it ended up. Mm-hmm. But so she starts asking about the axe, how he cleaned it, where he got it from, because she recognizes the forgers.
Yeah.
What is it?
The blacksmith's
blacksmith.
Mark on
there we go. Sorry,
the haft of the axe. But she's doing this while she to distract him while she's like digging up the dirt, and I'm like,
she's digging up a stone,
stone or brick in the ground. Yeah.
And so they get the signal. She incapacitates, or she's fighting off the guard.
Yeah, fights all these people off. Like she breaks her handcuffs or rope around, and she has a brick, like a big heavy brick stone, and she's just beating the crap out of everybody. Well, Chris Pine's like, "You got this. You're doing great."
He's literally trying to get out of his rope, so he's like rubbing the ropes on the steps. He couldn't even get out of it while rubbing it on a blade. Because I was sitting there, it was like, I think the bit went on too long with him like trying to get out of the ropes, because it was like, she's knocking all these people out. They all have swords, so like obviously there's sharper things to be.
And she was kicking ass.
I think once again the action scenes were great.
Yeah, they were really good action scenes. Yeah,
and so they they knock out. Ed knocks out the final guard.
Yeah, see, he was a hero. All right, so at the very end, he gets out of his restraints and he uses his loot to hit the final guard. In the head.
So now Helga has a new axe, and they escape the city. And they're saying, we need to get Kira out of there.
Yeah, and just through this entire time, because we don't need to tell you every joke that's happening, but once she's talking to the guard, she's like, "Oh, how do you clean it?" He's like, "Linseed oil." She's like, "Oh, you need to do it once a week, not once a month. It's getting rusty." And on the way before they leave, and she's like, "But first," and he's like, "Yes, I know. We need to get linseed oil." And then they go up. So just a ton of like little dry humor spots in this entire moment up to this time. We just can't tell you.
I think it did play. I think the chemistry between Ed and Helga was really good.
Yeah, the platonic chemistry, because early on someone said too, like, "Oh, your husband married." Though, and I appreciate this, and I'm gonna say it later too. But they both were like, "Oh, what? No, we're not. No, ew, gross."
It wasn't like a shy thing where just like they turned to. It was like they thought about it. It was like, you shut your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely not. But it was one of those where part of me for a second thought, "Oh, okay, so that's the love interest that's going to happen in this movie." Yeah. Spoiler: there's no love interest in this movie.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't drag it down.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. I love
so they escape the city and they realize like now they want to get Kira, but they realize there's no way for them to sneak into the Nevermore is a castle, so it's a fortress. Neverwinter. God damn it, what's Nevermore? Ugh.
Nevermore.
Is that the Raven?
The Raven. Edgar Allan Poe.
Am I educated?
Well, right, know things. It's stringing them together.
We'll talk about the education thing later. So they realize that they need a team in order to get back into Neverwinter.
Time to get the team together.
So they go and find Simon. And that was another joke. It was like, it's been 2 years. Maybe he's a better sorcerer. Yeah. And you see he's basically performing. It's like on a Vegas show. Yeah. Of like a Vegas magician performing. He's just doing like a trick where he like lights his finger on fire.
Yeah, very like shitty magic.
Yeah.
But he's stealing stuff from everyone.
So you do see while he's distracting them with the magic, there's another spell collecting all the jewels and bracelets and stuff like that from the audience.
Yeah, so maybe he has gotten a little better.
A tad.
Yeah.
And then so he recognizes Ed and Holga, and this is when the facade drops. The audience recognizes that he's stealing from them, so they go to attack him, and he uses one of his. I didn't know what that thing was.
So that was like the little chaos thing on the side. I think that's maybe, I don't fully know because again I'm not the expert on this honestly, but like that's how he like casts his spells, and he said it was like a chaos spell. So like with chaos spells, it's like you're trying for one, but anything can happen.
Got it.
So I think that's why he had like then like an anti-gravity spell happen, which threw everyone up in the air and down. So that was really cool.
But yeah, so Simon, Holga, Ed escape.
Yeah.
And they're talking about and this is when you realize that Simon had said that as soon as they had left that forge after Hogan and Ed got trapped, that Sofina tried to kill him as well. So he just knew that forge was no good.
Yeah. So the fact he got out away from Sofina,
I feel like that's a story in its own.
I know, right?
Because I've seen that man's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
But so now they're talking about how they need to find a way into the
Neverwinter like vault or the keep, because a bunch of rich people from Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep are coming and storing their goods in there. So they want to break in.
Yeah, they said so you're right. They don't only want to rescue Kira, even though she doesn't need to be rescued in my opinion.
There's a bad guy holding her, and she should be with him.
He hasn't been bad at all. But yeah, so they want to rescue Kira and then also get revenge on Forge by stealing. Robbing the vault. But in order to rob the vault, in order to do any of that, they need someone to go in so to let them know kind of what to expect when they get in there. So they want a druid.
Yeah, so they want a druid who can like wild shape, and that way they can like go in. There might have been another reason for the druid, but then
I'm pretty sure. I thought it was just to spy in.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously Simon says he knows a druid. He tried to court her.
Yeah.
And so this is where we meet Doric.
Yeah.
And they think that it's this like woman about to be executed. It's not like Doric is
the horse.
Yeah, I guess she's infiltrated the guard as a horse. Yeah. And then as soon as the woman is about to be executed, she shapeshifts into
an owlbear.
Owlbear.
A classic owlbear. Yeah.
Once again, these names.
In Magic the Gathering, an owlbear is a 2 colorless, 2 green, 4/4 creature which you draw a card when it enters the battlefield.
But she turns into an owlbear, saves the woman about to be executed, returns her to their village. Yep. And initially, she tells her story about how like she's half human, half something else.
Tiefling. Yes. She was born. She's a half tiefling born. Apparently, she was born to human parents. I don't remember how tiefling lore, but I guess that can happen.
Yeah, sure. And so she really doesn't trust humans because all they do is lie. Like, and the people that she lives with now was the ones that took her in.
Yeah, the druids.
So
druids like nature.
Ed's trying to tell her like, well, we have Simon the sorcerer, the barbarian. I'm the planner. Yeah, and it was like interesting because this was also in the trailer. It was just like, well, now that the plan's done, what do you do? And he's like, well, if the plan fails, then I'll come up with another plan. And he was like, so you make bad plans?
You make bad plans? That's just how this works? Yeah.
And so she's convinced to go to, because she also doesn't like Forge. So apparently Forge has been, because they wouldn't, I guess, yield to him?
Forge is going to the forest. He's chopping down the trees and destroying the forest, which is fucking with the druids. And when the druids say anything bad about him or anything like that, then Forge executes him. Yeah. So Forge isn't a nice guy.
Yeah, so she wants revenge on Forge as well, so that's why she helps him, even though she's wary of humans. I think the only human there is Ed?
Well, I mean, Holga's
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say Holga's somewhat, at least mostly human. She's a barbarian, but that's usually a human barbarian.
But anyway, so she still decides to help them. So she transforms into a fly to be, a fly on the wall in the castle to kind of get the layout of the castle and also to find out where the treasures are being held. Yeah. But as she's, at the at the door of the treasure, like learning about. So Fina's like telling that there's some spell on the door.
Yeah.
So Fina,
Mordecai and Sigil. Mordecai is a very powerful sorcerer.
Yeah. So Fina recognizes that there is a shapeshifter among them.
Yeah.
And she gives chase, and it was like a really cool scene. You see Dork trying to get away, so she goes from a fly to a rat, and then she sneaks into a body of armor that's been on the wall, and turns into herself, tries to walk away, gets chased again, and just like so she's just running through the city, shape-shifting into different animals to escape, and she finally escapes the Neverwinter as a deer. And then runs.
Which that was another joke earlier. Yeah. So earlier, she was like, Holga is very straight, very much like the straight man of all of this. And she's like, so you could be a deer and sneak into the castle, and it's like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Ed's like, so she could blend in with the other deer.
The deer there. Yeah. But then at the end, she escapes the village as a deer. So Holga's like looking all smooth, like.
So I did notice that there was like a stag or something on her thing. So maybe that's why she was like big with the deer.
Yeah. I think she was the elk. Like that was the clan of the elk or something like that. Yeah.
But so now they know that the whatever
Mordecai and Sigil
is on the door. So the only way for them to
I could be pronouncing that wrong. Sorry, D&D fans. But yeah, Mordecai.
The only way for them to break in would be to either for Simon to be a 10 times better sorcerer, which we do not have time for.
Yeah.
Or for them to get this helmet.
Yes.
But it was lost in
helmet disjunction.
Yeah, it was lost in battle years ago. So like they don't even know where it is. But luckily, and this is what I'm saying, the pacing was great because it was just like we need to do this. And then this, and then this.
It is like a D&D campaign. Because like you'll do a lore check characters, and like one of the characters, a good DM will be like, "Oh, my backstory of blah blah blah," and then they can bring that into the next because magically every character in the party, deep in like their ancestral knowledge, knows everything you need to be successful. Those are like fun campaigns.
And so Holga tells them that her people fought
over for the helmet.
Oh, for the helmet. So like they should know where it is. So like. They travel to a graveyard, like the battlefield that turned into a graveyard.
Yeah.
Of her people, because Simon has a talisman that could bring people back to life.
Yeah, bring zombies back so you can ask them questions.
But you can only ask them 5 questions.
So this is if you.
And this was funny because at the time, Dork says 5 seems arbitrary.
It's just the rules. I know it's just the rules.
I rolled the fucking die. It said 5. What do you want from me? But on the way to. Holga to the graveyard.
Sorry, it was just because this was so funny. And everyone's like, "Can't you just magic it?" And he's like, "Magic just doesn't work like that." And then at the end, it's like, "Well, I guess we could ask questions." And they're like, "Actually," and then he's like, "Wait, so we can't do magic? What do we do?" And he's like, "Actually, my magic can do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, what a funny movie." Yeah.
And so on the way to the graveyard, Holga stops at her ex-husband's house because they had mentioned earlier when they were going to go. Find out what Forge was.
Yeah.
That they were going to stop at her ex-husband's house, and Ed tells her, he was like, "He's not your husband anymore. He sent you a letter in prison saying that like are no longer together."
Yeah.
And she's like still caught up on him. So like they go to his house. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
To just collect a few of her things, and he opens the door. And you see that it's one Bradley Cooper, and he is a halfling.
He is a halfling. Like, this was the one thing, I think Mike mentioned it, the CGI halflings were not as good as like the Lord of the Rings halflings because they used practical effects for CGI, but it was still hysterical to see.
And that's what was crazy because like all the creatures were great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure they didn't have owl bears on set. Like,
I mean, there was still like that. Well, they borrowed the cocaine bear and they just put an owl mask on top of it.
But it was just like, that's what was interesting. It was just like the one thing that lacked was and it was the depth perception of the halflings. That was it. Because there were other halflings in the movie as well. It wasn't just Bradley Cooper. But anyway, so she goes to her ex-husband's house. They sit, they talk. He has a new
giant
new girlfriend who is very similar to Holga.
Like another barbarian, basically. Yeah.
And he tells her that, and it was interesting too because it was just like he was saying that she was saying that she left her clan for him. And he was saying like, well, he really fought to like make her happy because she had sacrificed so much for him.
But she could never let it go.
But she could never let it go. So it's like that's why he, and he was like he didn't know where she was.
Yeah. Well, because she was a thief. So I guess they didn't show it, but they were married while they were doing all the thieving and all the other stuff. So it's like she left her clan for him, but she couldn't let go of the fact that she left her clan for him, and she was upset about that, which also isn't fair to him because he's trying to make a life. He was like, I made this house for us. I'm trying to do all this, but then she would be out like stealing and like filling the void in other ways by like hanging out with Ed. So still not a healthy relationship. Yeah. So good for Bradley Cooper, halfling guy.
But yeah, so they go their separate ways amicably. She takes this walking stick that she had given him. Yeah. And then they go to the graveyard, and it's a funny scene where like they're resurrecting. Well, not funny, but also very informative. Yeah. Where they're resurrecting men that died on the battlefield for their helmet. So the first guy, once again, it's 5 questions. Yeah.
If it's any question that gets asked, this you might have seen in the trailer, but any question that gets asked, the guy's going to answer.
Yeah,
so
and it counts.
Yeah, and it counts. Yeah, so he's looking, talking to Simon. Does that count as a question? The guy's like, yes.
And so they work their way. They find out that the at one point the king or at least the leader of the clan of Holger's clan had the helmet, and he told a guy to ride off with it. Yeah. But that guy is ultimately shot down. But the last thing he remembers is
Zank.
Zank coming to him, and he was a wizard of.
So he was from Thair? I don't think he was. But he
was a Therian. They go with a Therian or something.
Yeah.
So he was a Therian. So like it's the assumption that they're all evil.
Yeah. When that's not true.
Yeah. So Zank the Therian comes up to him, and he, instead of like giving him a killing blow, he kind of like caresses him and like really helps him get onto that next plane. And the guy tells Zank to take the helmet and hide it. Yeah. So now they know where they need to go. And instead of there was another thing too. It was just like Ed would ask the guy a question, and once he knew enough, he would just walk away. But it was like, no, you still have a few questions.
There's 3 questions left
because a guy can't die again until you ask him questions. So the first guy he asked him was like, "What's your favorite book?" Or "What's 2 plus 2?" And the guy was like, "I'm not good at math," and then died.
And then he dies. Yeah.
But the last guy, he asked him his favorite book, and he goes, "Oh, well, that's just in a nutshell.
Yeah, who could pick just one?" Yeah.
I thought that was very funny. Yeah. But then he didn't ask him the last question, and they just walk away. Yeah. But now they need to find Zank, and they're all very knowledgeable about Zank.
And Ed doesn't like him because he doesn't like any of the people from Therians because they killed his wife. Understandable.
And so they find Zank, and he's in some village. Like he helps rescue a.
Wait, Janae, how do you pronounce it? Rajon Page?
Yes.
Rajon Page. Yeah, not Janae. Yeah, Rajon Page. He does a phenomenal job as like a paladin and like straight man. But like the first time you see him, because people know him from Bridgerton especially, and he is such like an elegance and grace about him, and he like does that to the extreme here. So you see him, and like
there's he's just walking through.
He's just like rips off his coat and like just walking in like
I believe it's a tunic, sir.
A tunic, like it's whatever. And he like goes up and he's like, "I'm here," and he like puts a hand on the fish to like get a child out of the fish. So it's just such a great introduction of who is this dude, but he does it so well.
I think it's interesting. Was like he gave the paladin the same grace that Henry Cavill gave the guy from
The Witcher.
Oh,
Geralt.
Yeah. It's just like he knows the attributes and stuff like that. So he plays it off.
Yeah, he's an awkward, righteous, lawful good paladin, and I'm like, that was perfect. Yeah.
So they talk to Zank, ask him about the helmet, and he's like a little wary at first, but then they mention Forge and Sophina. Yeah. And he recognizes her as a red wizard, and he says, he mentions like how his experience with the red wizard. Yeah. So like,
because he's a harper now, he knows that Ed was a past harper. Yeah.
And so he tells a story about how years prior, Zaz Taib,
I don't remember,
a big red wizard. Basically corrupted all of the Therians. Sorry.
Big dead tree spell.
Yeah, using this spell and that horn that Sophina was looking for.
Yeah, it's like calls down this giant tree, goes on the horn, spits out all this like red smoky gas.
Yeah, and anybody who inhales the gas becomes the undead.
Yeah, like it like destroys their soul and they become like undead soldiers. Yeah.
So he was, and that's what he was saying. It was like parents were like turning on children and stuff like that. It was just like they were just working.
That was a great sequence, and it made me jump a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right.
Smooth jumped.
Yeah, so like he's going down. He's like parents would turn on children, and like his parents are like pushing him ahead of the smoke.
So you just see the red smoke, and then like out jumps.
Yeah, out jumps his parents at him, and then that's why like the fairy and sigil gets seared into his forehead.
Yeah, so it's like he kind of inhales it, but not enough, I guess, to be turned. Because anybody that inhales it, you see the sigils on their head. Yeah. But yeah, so he gets it a bit, but not enough. Yeah. And that's why like he's able to live so long and stuff like that. Because one of the assassins brings that up later. Okay. Yeah. And so anyway, so he tells his backstory. He says he trusts them, and so he wants to give them the helmet. So they go to.
Make Ed, and he makes Ed promise to give the gold to all the people of Neverwinter. Yeah.
And so they go to the Underdark.
Well, they go to this underground that's dark. What is it called? Underdark, yeah.
So they go to the Underdark to collect the helmet, and it's like, bro, why wouldn't you just throw it in a like the Lord of the Rings when they no, it was Justice League when they had the one of the mother boxes, and all that like so the Athenians did one thing, or the Amazonians did one thing, the Aqua people did one thing, and then the humans just literally put it in a shallow grave. It was like, why couldn't you do one of those?
There you go, easy peasy. I think, and before this, while this is happening, we get the flashback to, well, not flashback, but we see Sophina and Forge again, and then Sophina's talking to the one of the
Sast. I thought it was like Sast.
We assume there's Sast Tam she's talking to, but then so
one, you find out that Forge knows that Sophina's a red wizard. Yeah. Because she's just pretending in her navy blue cloaks.
Yeah, she's like in her office and like she has everything else. You see all the sigils. She turns red, and then Forge comes in and he's like, "You should put your hood on. What are you doing? That's a terrible idea." And you're like, "Oh no, Forge knows all this."
Sorry, and then also you see that she recruits an assassin,
a fair assassin,
and to chase Ed and Holga. Yeah. And then, that was a cool scene because they're talking in a different language, and he says, as they're walking, you have Forge's guards behind him, and she says, one last thing, the guards behind me let them escape, and so he just murders all of them.
So with that, I will say, those guards are like, do you not just think these people are ominous as shit? Like, they literally come
Bro, I'm just a guard. Like, I got a family.
So, but the guard's just sitting there. And
I'm doing my 2-year stint in the army.
Could you imagine?
And then I'm getting out.
You're a guard, and you're like, God, I gotta like hang out with this creepy-ass wizard lady who doesn't say anything, and what the hell? And then another one comes?
Like it's just the henchman code, all right? Like, I don't ask questions. That's above my pay grade, guy.
I guess. But yeah.
I fight the bad guy one at a time, obviously, and then I just go home to my family, hopefully.
I would like to know as well, because I don't. Is Sophina an undead as well?
I assume so.
I don't know.
She might be a higher ranking.
Right? That's the thought. I have no idea. I don't know fully how
I guess she seemed like it at the end, towards like...
Yeah, she did seem like one of the undead people at the end.
But anyway, so they go to the Underdark, to collect the helmet, and so I think this is a funny part too. It was just like, so they get to this bridge, and I think this is steeped in the D&D lore. Where it was just like, all right, so you need to step on an odd,
that was a standard
an odd block, and then like move over. It doesn't matter if you go right or left, but you need to follow a certain sequence. And then in the middle of the gate, you need to switch to even blocks. And he's going through this really intricate, detailed thing. You see Ed and Holga like, yep, got it. All right. And then Simon steps off to the side, accidentally steps on the bridge because he doesn't know where it starts, and he does the sequence wrong, and the whole thing crumbles. But it was just so funny. Like Ray J. John Page is just like giving his intricate details, like, listen to me.
Yeah, listen to everything. But then at the end, like Zank is just like staring at him, like something like, and like in the best way of being like, he's so pissed, but he can't be that pissed because he's a paladin, but he's so pissed.
But anyway, so Simon notices the walking stick or staff or whatever that Holga had taken back from her ex-husband. And he notices that she says she got it off a wizard. Yeah. And he recognizes it as a hither and thither.
A hither thither staff.
Which once again, these fucking names.
Hither thither.
And what it does is it opens up a portal, opens up two portals to hither and thither. And so they use that to traverse the Underdark.
Yeah. Well, because instead of just they don't even need the
they don't need the bridge or anything like that. And then there's a scene with they encounter the creatures,
the intellect devourers.
Yes. And it was so these just giant, not giant brains, but these big brains. On four legs, and it was if they sense any intellect, they will devour your brain and take over your body. And so there's three of them, these creatures that just walk past everyone. And Ed goes, well, that was kind of insulting.
That was insulting. And it does such a great job of Zank is explaining what these things are for the people that don't know. And it looks all ominous as they're going. And then you just walk by everybody. That was hysterical.
It was a band of dum-dums, apparently.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
And so they get the helmet finally, and then they get an ambush by the assassins sent by Sophina.
And Zank just beats
the
fuck out of him.
You can see that they've had dealings before. Yeah. The main guy and Zank said
paladins aren't allowed to use projectile weapons, so the sword probably can't be used. But other than that, it was pretty good.
So does that take down your ranking, sir?
2 out of 5. No.
And so they get the helmet. Zank fights off the assassins. But he says that, you can't kill what's already dead. So, they all rise.
Which was crazy, because it's just this whole great battle scene, slitting throats, whatever. And then, then they all just come back up, they're ready for round 2. And I was like, that's both awesome and terrifying.
And then, they all try to escape. And then they encounter
Jabba the dragon.
The dragon that lords over the Underdark. And it is possibly a plus-size dragon.
He's a fat dragon. Imagine Jabba the Hutt as a dragon, and that's this dragon. It's
and that's what was funny, because it was just bro, your wings are useless, Mike.
Exactly. But Did he eat his last hideout or whatever? Yeah.
And so, they run from the dragon. They use Simon's little flame trick because the dragon keeps trying to spark flames. So you see, and that's always interesting. I love that
it's too fat to breathe fire.
I was the design of dragons where it shows how they breathe fire.
Yeah.
So you can see in the dragon's mouth that he's setting sparks or whatever, but as if it was a lighter, but it's not catching flame.
Yeah, I guess he breathes out the gas and the sparks. Yeah.
So they use that. Once again, Ed being the planner, they use that to break out.
Yeah. Question. If the dragon eats one of the assassins of Thayer, even though they're undead and come back, will they come back?
I don't know.
Yeah, right? Or if you dismember them, will they come back? I don't know. The questions need to be answered.
And so they break out of the Underdark. They have the helmet now. Zank goes away because I assume plot reasons.
And in such great video game Dungeons and Dragons fashion, when ever a character leaves the party, they just walk in a straight line away. And Chris Pine's look at him, he's just walking in a straight line.
It was coming to a rock.
Coming to a rock. What's he gonna do?
Right over.
Go around. It's a big rock. He's like, you gonna go around? Nope. He just walks up and down the rock. Oh Lord.
And so we get a scene where they had. In order to, so the whole purpose of getting the helmet was because it nullifies any enchantments or something like that around it.
But you need to
attune to it. So Simon was saying earlier that he couldn't. So now he has 6 hours to try.
Yeah.
And so he puts on the helmet and he gets visited by his great grandfather,
great grandfather,
who was a great sorcerer.
Yeah.
But he's blocking him out from attuning to the.
Yeah, calling him a loser, calling him stupid. Yeah,
attuning to the helmet. So Ed says, "Well, you have 6 hours to do it."
Yeah,
and he tries and tries and tries, can't do it. So now they need to come up with another plan. And so they decide they realize that they don't need to get into the vault. They just need a way into the vault.
So then while I love this part from the movie as message from the movie. So Simon wakes up Ed and he's like, I can't do it. I told you I couldn't do this. Why did you make me do it? And everyone gets, and this was also though a little bit, I'm like,
it's the third act.
Yeah, third act. So at the same time, I'm like, why are you that mad? He was believing in you, especially the other two. They're like, he was trying to give the sorcerer a chance. Yeah. I thought he could do it, which honestly, you shouldn't be hated on for believing in your friends. But he gives a great speech about failures, and he's like, the only way you fail is when you stop trying. Because as long as you keep trying, you're never truly a failure because you haven't failed yet. Yeah. And I thought that was a phenomenal message of the movie. I was like, that was great. Yeah. Was that
I yawned. I thought it was
awesome. Yeah, I loved it.
Then we learn why he's fighting so hard because of why Ed's fighting so hard.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that when he was a harper, being that he wasn't paid well, he stole gold from one of the red wizards that they had captured.
And the harpers just let that wizard out real quick.
And the red wizards marked their gold. So like that's why he was targeted. It wasn't because of the fact that they were getting revenge. They were just getting their gold back.
Yeah, they knew where the gold was, which makes sense because even when they kind of looked at each other,
they literally looked past him.
Yeah, and he was like, "I don't care, I have my gold back. Yeah, fuck off." Yeah.
And so that's why he's fighting so hard because he feels like he's the reason why his wife died.
He is the reason.
So they come up with another plan to use the hither-thither staff.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
That was so cool. Yeah.
And so they take a portrait and they put it on the carriage that's going to be taken to like with all the gold from the rich people. Yeah. That's going to be taken into the vault. And I thought that was an interesting thing.
That was a really cool sequence of like putting it up, then like they open the other portal so they can like take out the the wood beams of bottoms. She goes in, moves it in, and then gets out. That was awesome. Yeah. Really cool sequence.
And so then they go to the to Neverwinter. They kind of split off. So like you have they're in a room trying to use the hither the portal, but the portrait has been
they put it face down.
It falls over, so they can't get into.
Why would they store it like that?
And so since they can't get into the vault, they once again thinking on their feet, coming up with another plan. So they split off. Doric stays to try to like cut into the ground because any leeway she can turn into a worm to get into the room. Yep. Then you have what's his name? The Simon.
Simon, yeah.
He still has the helmet, so he's like, now we need to go back to Plan A, where like you attune to the helmet.
We're going to Plan C, which is Plan A.
It's renamed because Plan A has stink all over. And so to attune to the helmet to break into the vault, and then
so Holga and Simon are doing that, and Ed's going to grab Kira.
Yes, yeah. And so all at once you see. It was a really cool scene. So you see Simon finally attunes to the helmet. Basically, it was just like he needed confidence. Yeah,
it was himself holding himself back. He gets pissed off, punches his great-great-grandfather in the face, and it's actually him. And he's like, "It's about time you can do this."
So he attunes to the helmet, opens the gate. Opens the vault. So he and Helga are in the vault. Doric finally chisels her way into the vault. Yeah. And turns into a room right as she was about to get caught. So she's in the vault as well, and then Ed is with Kira, giving her this speech about like he is wrong, and but he wants to do right. And then all at once, Kira turns out to be Sophina, so she captures Ed. The vault that Holga and Simon have broken into is actually it's empty.
It's empty. And it's a trap.
It's a trap, and so they get captured. And then Doric, it pissed me off because it was just like. So you can shapeshift into anything. She realized that she's not in the vault; she's underneath the stadium or whatever, and she sees guards taking the treasures and loading it into a boat. Yeah, and she stays as herself. Like why did she sneak around as something else?
Yeah, so and she gets snuck up on because of it. Knocked out.
So she gets knocked out. So they all are, and so they're about to be executed by Sophia.
Tentacle monster.
Yeah. But what's his name? Ed convinces. Well, first they do the villain thing where he was like, "I can't stand to see you die, so I won't."
So I walk away,
and I was just like, "Oh, so they're gonna break out." But Ed giving using basically tricking
Forge charm.
Using his charm is like, well, let us fight in the game.
Yeah, well, it's Sophina because Forge is like, no, it's much better.
Well, Ed says it. Forge is like, no, let's just kill you. But Sophina, which is weird because it's a twist, a twist in her motivations.
So I think the reason why she's like, oh, they killed my assassins, they did this. I think she was like really looking forward to them being assassins themselves. That's my thought.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, because of her plan.
Because of the plan. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. But so he convinces Forge to let them participate in the games. Yeah. And so they all, start participating in the games. And it was like, the first thing is a maze. It's really cool. And it's like, it's not shifting, but it's deleting itself as it line by line as it goes.
And in it, there's like chests, there's mimics, so this is where you get the dungeon. So you get like the
there's a
dungeon.
I think of a dungeon with a cap on it.
Yeah. But so then you get like the jelly cube monster. You get this panther that can shoot illusions. I'm blanking on what it's actually called. But yeah, the ooze, and then like you get a mimic as a treasure chest, which was really cool. And then like they're running through, people are dying left and right because a bunch of adventurers are doing this, and they're all just getting slaughtered.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So Doric realizes that obviously the parts of the maze are going down beneath beneath the stadium. So they jump into what is it, the
cube, gelatinous cube.
Yes, They jump into the cube and
I think dissolves you to the bone for the
if you're in there long enough.
Yes, yeah.
So they need people to pull them out. So what happens is they jump in. Doric leaves just like her finger out of it, and then transforms into a snake because obviously it was like forming around her human form. So she transforms to a snake, gets out, pulls everybody out, and then they go to escape. They go to the ship. Because she recognizes that she's underneath the stadium again. And so they go to the ship, recognize that it has all of the treasure that was in the vault, and at the same time, Forge is escaping with Kira because he's done his job for Sophina, right?
Yeah, because Forge knows exactly what's about to happen, and he looks to Sophina, he's like, "So we good? I can get out of here." Sophia's like, "Get the hell out of my city," and I'm like, "All right."
And so there's a scene where like Forge, Forge is with Kira and the rest of the band, and Ed, tells her, he was like, "This is what I look for. It's the tablet of resurrection. I would never leave you for any like dumb reason like that." And so
they kind of like get the drop on Forge, so then Forge responds in kind by whipping out a knife and holding it to Kira's throat. And it's like, well, there you go.
And
that's
so
how you know he's not a knife.
Holga throws a potato at him, which I was like, bro, he has a knife at her neck. You never know what the reaction.
That is true, because you could like hit with hit. Because if
I assume I would just come,
oh shit, she's dead. Well, awkward, but
I thought that was the first thing I thought. But so they get Kira, steal the ship, and ride off. And at the same time, Sophina, now that the stadium is full of people, she takes the horn. She starts doing these incantations,
and all the rich people are just like, "Can you not do that here?" What are you doing?
It was very much like ignoring somebody on the train in the subway. Was like, "Man, I don't care about the return of Jesus. Can you please quiet down?
Just get it out of here, man."
And so she does these incantations. The horn, starts. I think it's talking about the tree or whatever.
The death tree thing. I'm not 100% sure. I'm calling it the death tree.
And so the smoke comes through the horn and starts killing all of the rich people. Yeah. And then
but right before this, I guess they do see that it's like, oh shit, something's going down. And then Ed looks at his Harper book too, and it's like, all right, no, we have to go back and save it.
So they use the hither thither because they realize that they need to save the people.
Yep. Yeah.
And so they use the hither thither. I hate saying it so much. Staff.
Say it 3 times fast.
I shan't. And so they project it onto this blimp. Yeah. That is kind of circling the castle and into the boat. Yeah. So that all of the treasure is falling out of the sky. And so the people leave the stadium. Yeah. Because Forge had said that there was a big surprise for them at the end. Yes. He meant them turning into
their assassin people.
Yeah. Yeah. But they think that this is and so all of the people escape the stadium, which unplausible.
Yeah, it did. I was like, that doesn't fool them. They don't have enough time. Yeah, they don't have enough time.
Movie's got a movie.
Yeah, movie's got a movie.
And so the people escape, and then
except for the rich ones, they're still
the rich ones are all dead, which they don't address.
They don't address that at all. Yeah, they don't. They're just like, yep, that's fine.
And so you see the band fight. So they go to fight Sophina.
Yeah, because there's only so far the cloud can go as well. So people, that's why they all had to be collected.
There. Yeah. Once she realizes that the stadium is empty, she can't turn any more people. She gets furious, so she starts attacking the band or whatever. And you see, he says, he sends off Kira again. Yeah. He says, I want you to hide, use your amulet to be invisible so you don't get captured.
Quick time as well. So just to make sure I'm not getting caught up for lack of knowledge, it's kind of like a cloud kill spell, I know, but there's more to it because it's making the zombies. That's why I haven't been calling it cloud kill. Just letting everybody know. Anyway, back to you.
So
I'm not getting this in comments, man. I know people are like, actually, no, I know Cloud Kill. All right,
I'm trying to avoid the actuallys in the world.
Exactly.
So the four of them fight. Four of them being Ed, Holga, Simon, and Doric. They fight Sophina.
Yep.
But she's obviously too powerful.
She's very strong.
But they're heroes now. They're trying to save their world.
Yeah.
And you do see that at one point she does the time stop spell again.
Yep. And they're like, Simon, counter her. He's like, I can't. She's still too strong. And they all freeze.
They freeze, and she says she's going to kill them. And then she gets really close to Ed, and you see her. This is what I was talking about. Maybe she was the undead because you see her face start decaying.
Yeah, it starts decaying, and it's kind of weird. I'm like, why is her face decaying?
It was weird. I thought,
I know why now.
Why?
Because the bracelet.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was because of the fact that she was secretly the original wizard.
Nah. The original wizard was one talking to her, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but I once again, I didn't understand until later. But yeah, she's decaying because Kira has snuck up on her using the invisibility amulet and put this
magic restricting bracelet.
Yes, so she doesn't have magic anymore.
And then Simon also did counter the time stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were faking it in order to give Kira time because they were a distraction. And then Doric transforms into the owlbear and does the Hulk to Loki where she just starts banging her into the ground as revenge because Sophina did fuck up Doric.
Absolutely.
And then we see that
in the battle, Holga got stabbed.
Yeah, Holga got stabbed. And she died. And because if you get stabbed by red wizard's blade, there's no way to counter her.
That's how it goes for sure. Yeah.
And so she dies, and Ed, seeing how devastated Kira is, realizes that this is her mother. Like, he was fighting back to bring her mother, but he wasn't really fighting back to bring Kira's mother. He was fighting back to bring his wife because Kira never knew her mother.
Yeah. And as the movie went off, I forgot to, of course, whenever you have a dead wife, you have to have a scene under the sheets. Yeah. The under the sheets dead wife scene.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then
I saw she was alive. I was like, no, get her out of here.
And then there also the whole message of like, oh, you have to let stuff go. You have to let things go. So Ed realizes that, and then also because Holga's his sister and the love.
So he uses the tablet of resurrection to resurrect Holga.
And she's immediately like, why did you waste it on me?
Yeah.
Which is very funny. Yeah.
And then since Sophina's dead, the original Lord of Neverwinter wakes up from his coma or whatever he was in. Yeah. He, I guess, pardons all of them, gives them
they're heroes.
They're heroes now. You see Holga, she's getting, I guess, her medal from this another halfling. Yeah. And you see her bite her lip.
It's just bite lip thing.
Apparently that's her type.
Yeah.
And then then you see the adventure ends. They're heroes. They're kind of deciding what they're gonna do next.
Yeah. But then you see that who's narrating this at the end. Forge is narrating it to the.
Oh yes. There you go. Sorry. Yeah. So now you see that Forge, because he didn't die. He's in prison now for...
Forge got captured by Zenk, who came up and was like, Forge, I believe, blah, blah, blah. So he captures and puts him in prison.
Yeah, so now, Forge is at his parole hearing a year later, saying, he's changed and all this stuff like that. And he immediately gets...
he gets rejected.
And so he grabs Jonathan again.
And tries to go out the window.
But they learn that lesson. The window is now bricked off.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I'm sorry.
I don't know what came over me. I don't know what happened. I swear I'm reformed.
So that was funny. So yeah, the movie ends, and it was you get the mid-credit scene. It's just a joke where the corpse that they revived the last time
is still
sitting there. Can somebody ask me a question so I can die? Jesus.
I thought it was going to be, can someone ask me a question? And then
that would
answer
be it,
himself. Yeah, but nope. But yeah, that's the movie. Super fun. At the end of everything, we always like to do a quick, did our opinions change? Mike?
I'll give it 3.5.
3.5?
I think it was a solid movie. It was really funny.
Yeah.
It paced very well. I guess I didn't like the whole... you have magic and you're still reducing this to fisticuffs.
Okay, yeah.
To solve it.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Everybody doesn't have projectile powers or whatever. So, but no, I'll give it a 3.5. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 4. I really enjoyed it too. I guess the complaints would be it's a little predictable, I guess, but it's also predictable because A, I've seen a lot of movies, and B, of stuff as like something, to have like someone who has no idea about movies in general, I think this does a great job of being a great action comedy movie that people will love. So yeah, I thought it was great. It's just 4. Absolutely. But that is our podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Again, we are the Meddling Kids. If you'd like to reach out to us, our Gmail is 2meddlingkids@gmail.com. Twitter, Instagram is @2meddlingkids. We'd love to hear from you. If you think, any comments about stuff we're doing or you want us to review a specific movie, please feel free to reach out. Mike, how can they reach out to you?
On Instagram @DaysFromLegendary.
Perfect. And you can reach out to me at EdHunt77. So, till next time, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.